How's everybody? Good. How many were here last night? Any of you? Usually you sleep very well. Did you sleep well up here? I think, people arrive here and they've been on the road and they're winding their way up here. And by the time they get here, the stress level maybe has gone a little high and they just come in and sit down and relax. And the elevation, I think, helps too. Usually people sleep very well when they get up here. But I think the altitude, especially those that live at sea level, feel it a little bit. You're at 5,400 feet elevation here. And of course the mountain's 14,410 feet, way up there. But it's, I drove up here, I mentioned to a couple of you, I drove up here about 45 minutes ago from the west side. And it's overcast down there, but it's not raining. And on the way up, I saw glimpses of the mountain. So maybe this will burn off and open up a little bit. But she creates her own weather. And she does what she wants to do. We say she's very shy because we don't see her sometimes. And then other days, she's very coquettish. She'll let you see a little here and a little here. She just doesn't come open. And that's what I saw driving up. I just saw part of the mountain for a second. Well, my name is Jim, and I'm an interpretive ranger here at Mount Rainier National Park. Best job in the world. I thoroughly enjoy working here in nature and working with the public. I've been here 14 years. I was 20 when I started. But it's really been a joy. I look forward to coming to work every day up here. And I'm an interpretive ranger, and our division, interpretation, is that we work with visitors all the time. We do walks and we do talks. We do programs like this. And our objective, we man the visitor centers, and our objective is to heighten your experience, learn a little more about where you are here in Mount Rainier. And so we enjoy, all of us, working with the public and visitors that come up for the day or maybe 2 days and hike. Now this is a casual chat this morning. I like to give you a little information about the park, but I like to solicit questions. Ma'am, there's a seat here, or one right in front of you if you'd be more comfortable. Solicit questions about the park. Many folks that come here are curious about something here. Now this is a volcano, Mount Rainier. How many have seen Mount Rainier? Okay, you're my proof that it is here, even though it's right up here. You can't see it this morning, but it is there. I saw it flying in. That happened to me. I saw it flying in and I saw the top of it. That was enough. I've never wanted to climb it because I've seen the top. But this became a park in 1899. It was the 5th park in our nation. And as all parks, it struggled to get started through the years. And many of the parks were having similar problems, is that visitors coming, it was new to them. They didn't really understand preservation, and parks were really being torn up pretty badly. People misusing it and kind of destroying the parks. Not maliciously, they just didn't realize what they were doing. And 1915, a man came in. They said he was the right man at the right time. He was appointed the director of National Park Service. His name was Stephen Mather. And he pulled all the parks together. He took leadership. Most of the parks were almost acting independently, trying to keep things going and keep them clean and so forth, and trails. But he put it all together, and he put all the parks under one umbrella and established this is what a national park is. We have 2 major objectives. That is to have it clean, comfortable, and safe for visitors to come, because the parks belong to you. You help support them. And the other one is to preserve it. That's all the wildlife, the trees and so forth, and not destroy this beautiful, beautiful ecosystem that's here. And that still goes on. This park is 97% wilderness. But we have to impact the park because it's for you. We want visitors to come in and enjoy it. So we have to impact it with roads and bathrooms and places to stay and places to camp to accommodate folks that are coming up to see the park. And he really pulled it together and established, okay, here's now what a park is. Now, the superintendents of all these parks were really glad to see Stephen Mather come in because they were kind of floundering, doing what they had to do in the park. But then all of a sudden they had a direction. And he started large ranger programs to take care of the park and really establish it. And that was in 1915 when he did that. So here we are, we have a park. It started out, this park was being abused badly. Even before it was established as a national park, many folks were coming here. There's no road up here, but they knew about Paradise and the view of the mountain. And so you could come into Longmire's, a man established on a mineral claim down there, had a little hotel, and he had some horses, and he'd rent them out to people. They could come up, ride horseback up here, camp for a few days, and then go back down. And that grew, and a lot of people were coming in with their horses hoping to get a fare. Somebody would hire them to bring them up here. And it turned out through time that a lot of these men turned out to be real shysters. They weren't straightforward with what they were doing. The first superintendent, it was in 1901, that was assigned to this park, Grenville Allen, and he really had his hands full. Issuing permits for anybody that operated in here and getting rid of a lot of the people that were wheeling and dealing here. It got so bad at one point that folks weren't coming because these fellows that were competing for you to rent or their services to come up to the top were fighting with each other and screaming and so forth, not paying attention to what their job was. And some of them said they were guides and they'd bring you up, collect money from you, to establish you up here and not show up to bring you back. You know, people, they just weren't, you know, good operators, good businessmen. But you know, in those days, people were coming up and camping wherever they wanted in the meadows. Now, this snow all here will leave. And what happens when the snow is gone is beautiful wildflowers grow up here. There's 85 different varieties. Peak for them will probably be about the first week in August. But it's really beautiful here later on in the summer. Any of you been here for the flower season? It's beautiful, isn't it? With all the flowers here, and there's many trails that you can take. But they really had to start protecting and realizing the place was being really seriously damaged. People were cutting branches off trees for tent poles. They were even burning trees in the night just to watch something in the night sky and so forth. But no preservation was going on until 1915. Then it tied up and they became a national park. Something I said?
The sun's shining.
Okay, I hope that mountain comes out. Ohana Pekosh. Let me hear you say it. Ohana Pekosh. Yeah, that's the east side. If you decide to go over there, I can show you when we're finished here maps. I have a little kiosk near the piano here. Show you how to get over there. And there's a couple of, going to that side, are you going to camp over there or just going? Okay, there's a couple of stops that are really worthwhile going over there, and I'll point those out. One is Box Canyon, where you see a river just thousands of years cutting through rock. It's not very wide and it's very deep, but it's just powerful. It's just through years, thousands of years it's cut down. And a little walk there, half-mile walk, not difficult. Then going further east, you'll come to a place called Grove of the Patriarchs. And there's a trail there that's 1.3 miles. And it's like this, but it's the old 1,000-year-old trees. They're beautiful in there. Anybody here been to that? It's really worthwhile. It's a beautiful, and the trail there is a dirt trail, but it's like this. You know, it's not difficult. You're not going up. It's snow-free. And another little trail takes off near there, goes down to some falls, but I'll point those out to you. And then you're on the east side of the park. If you go north, you know, start going north, you can go to Sunrise. There's a visitor center there too. Okay, now Sunrise is 1,000 feet higher than we are here. And that side of the mountain, the east side, is the drier side. Quite often you get over there, the weather is beautiful. And we're foggy here, as you can see, but it does change on that. I can't guarantee it because this weather does what it wants to do. Did that answer your question there? Yeah, okay. Another question?
You mentioned the piano a while ago.
Piano?
Is it true that Harry Truman played on
In 1945, Harry Truman, the president, played on that piano, and he played Tennessee Waltz. And that was his daughter's favorite song. That piano's interesting. You know, when they were building this building was built in 1916, 1917. And during that time, there was a German carpenter, master carpenter, that was looking for work. And he came up here with his wife and his children. And he was almost destitute. I mean, they weren't in good shape. It was still pretty rugged in this part of the country. And he wanted work. And they said, where are you from? And he said he was from Germany. And what do you do? He said, I'm a master carpenter. And they said, can you build us some furniture? And he went, yeah, you could build some furniture, and that means employment. So his name was Otto, and what they did, with scraps from building the building, some of the beams and so forth, he started building furniture. And furniture that he built is still here. The big table, the very heavy table here, 1,500 pounds. There's another one at the other end. He did the high back chairs that look like thrones. You see them in the room, there's 4 of them. He did all the seating along that wall made out of logs. And then they had an old piano here that was nondescript. Somebody had brought it up or got it for nothing somewhere. And he decided to build a frame for it. So he built the cover you see on the piano now. And the inside of the piano, of course, has been updated and changed. And then he built the clock here to match the piano. And he called it Gothic Bavarian. That was the style of it. But you know, through the years, this place is 97 years old, this building. The furniture, they've gone through several sets of furniture as they wear out, you know, with use. But not his things. They're still massive and sitting here, and they're part of the ambiance of this building now. They fit very, very well. How did I get there? What was the question? Oh, you asked a question. Any other questions? Did I answer your question?
Right.
Yeah, Harry Truman.
I know in Longmire there's like a village almost where many employees, I assume, live.
Yeah, you'll see a lot of.
Rangers?
Yeah, you'll see a lot of cabins there.
Yeah.
And yes, in summertime we have a lot of employees that come for it, and that's where a lot of them live.
This is still open all year?
No, this closes in the winter.
So when does this building reopen?
It opens usually the last week of May and closes the first week of October. But the area up here is open. We now plow the road from Longmire up here every day. Now we get 15 to 20 feet of snow here. We get a lot of snow. But they plow the road every day, and the visitor center during the winter opens on the weekends. So it's still active up here, and many folks will come up and they'll cross-country ski, or they'll snowshoe, and a few will hike up with their skis to ski down. But when we get about 6 feet of snow here, they groom an area up here in the meadows for young people and some adults to slide, big slide. And they come up, it has to be a plastic sled or a big tube, inner tube, to slide down. It's a lot of fun. But we have to first get about 6-7 feet of snow to cover the undergrowth before we start that. But it gets pretty busy here in the winter. You know, one time a few years ago, they had just groomed that sledding area, and I went up to look at it. I was working at the visitor center, and I walked up just to see it. And I walked up and I heard this yell that was just joyous. It was, you know, just, ah, you know, and I looked around to see who it was, and I spotted this man in a big tube coming down. And it happened, he slid right in front of me. And he looked up to me and he said, I just had to do that again, one more time. He was 84 years old. And he said, and I also knew there would be somebody here to help me out of this tube. So I grabbed him, picked him out. He turned out to be quite a guy, but a lot of kids really enjoy that sledding here. And we have rangers on duty monitoring it for safety's sake and so forth. So it gets active up here. Now you're local, you should come up.
Is the inn at Longmire open year-round?
Yes, yeah, there's an inn down there. It's open year-round. But we get the question quite often, people come in and want to know if those little cabins are for rent, and they're not. There's rooms in the inn down there. but that's used for summer employees. We almost triple the number of people working here in
Do
this
they have
season.
some rooms up here too for hotel employees, or is it everything?
Yeah, well, they're kind of the people that work here. This is a concession that operates here. There are some rooms for the staff that works in the kitchen,
So they do have
and
some.
they're living over the kitchen. There's some rooms there. Female employees are living in the guide building right across here, the upstairs floors. And then down below in the lower parking lot, there's a large building down there. Male employees live down there. Yeah, kind of a dormitory for them down there. But this building now has quite a few rooms that people rent, in the summer. The original rooms are over the dining room, down the short hallway, and then of course we have the annex that was added in 1920. But yeah, it's pretty busy here in the winter. We get a lot of church groups or Boy Scout troops that come up for an outing, and they'll do snow camping. They'll build snow caves, and a good experience. I'll tell you a funny story. There was a large camping group. They were Boy Scouts, and they were up a ways where the snow's deeper, and they were building snow caves. You dig into the snow, and it keeps you warm at night. Big adventure if you're 12 or 13 years old. And all of a sudden, the leaders who had head camp with their area, and the boys had all their snow caves. They heard some commotion. They were just getting ready to get dinner out for the boys. They heard some commotion, so they ran down to see what the problem was. Well, one of the snow caves had caved in. Nobody was hurt, but everybody was excited about it. They got back up to camp, and all their food was gone. The fox had come in and taken all their food except a cheesecake. And that's what they had for dinner, was a cheesecake. We have fox here. You got to watch them. They're very sneaky. Another question, something you might be interested in, climbing or the
When
volcanology?
the weather's like this, do they let them climb to the top? Or no? So it's
Yeah, we have from 9,000 to 12,000 people that get a permit every year to climb it. It's busy, and they usually leave 9:30 or 10 o'clock on this side from the parking lot. And what they'll do is they'll climb up to base camp. We're 5,400 feet elevation here. Base camp is 10,100.
That's Camp Muir.
Camp Muir. And they'll climb up there on the first day, and they'll get to Camp Muir, they rest, they get something to eat, and maybe a little sleep if they can, because about 12:30 or 1:30 in the morning, they get up, and that's when they leave Muir to climb to the top. And they get to the top about sunrise. It takes about 5 to 6 hours from Muir to get to the top. And they stay a half hour or so, and then they come all the way down. They climb at night up there. You're on glaciers up there because the snow and ice is firmer at night. And there's a lot of exposed rock if you've looked at the mountain. And rock through freezing and thawing and cracks, and it gets loose and so forth. And rock falls a danger up there. But at night, they're frozen in. They don't fall. So that's why they go up in that area in the night. But then they'll come on down. They don't dwell up there, most of them, before it starts softening up. As the day gets a little warmer, they'll come on down.
And how early in the season do they start going up?
Probably, let's see, the high point, they climb all year long. But probably first part of June, groups start. Now, we don't take groups up. The park doesn't. At Camp Muir, we have climbing rangers that are professional climbers, and they're up there at that base camp, kind of mothering the area, talking to groups coming down or advising groups going up, and taking care of any small emergencies and giving a lot of answers to people. But we don't take groups up. There's 3 schools outside the park that do that. And so we have those groups coming in from the schools. And then there's some, climbers that are professional or have done it before, or maybe they've gone through the training. They'll come up and go up. And it's interesting, you see the groups getting ready to climb, and they're excited. They're going to conquer the mountain, optimistic and so forth, checking their pack and their gear, and off they go. 2 days, they come back down, and they're not the same people that left. I mean, they are exhausted when they come down. 14,410 feet. Air gets thin up there. If it's a bright day, the reflection off the snow can be really damaging to the skin. Do you know that it's even on clear days, climbers will go up, especially beyond Muir when the sun comes up or coming down, and you get up there and that air is thin. It's step, step, breathe, step, step, breathe. And they breathe through their mouth. And quite often they come down and the roof of their mouth is inside is sunburned from the reflection off the snow. Or the bottoms of their nose. You got to keep putting on sun guard. You can really, and you can always tell a climber that's been up there and he's walking around here, because when he comes down he takes his goggles off and he looks like a raccoon, you know, because he's all burnt except right around the eyes. But we get 9,000 to 12,000 people, and about half of them make it to the top. Things that turn people back, one of them is you're going up to Muir and visibility is not good. Now, quite often, this looks like no visibility, but you get to about 8,000 feet, you get above this, and it's beautifully clear. But if it's not, and it's really socked in, they'll come back down. They know you don't want to try to climb this mountain if you can't see what's around you in conditions. So they'll come down. They're professional enough to realize they're with a group, the guides will bring them back down. Another group of people will get up to Camp Muir and realize they have elevation problem, elevation sickness. And boy, I've never had that, but I've talked to people that have gotten elevation sickness, and it's miserable. It's kind of like being seasick. You think you're gonna die for a while, and then pretty soon you're afraid you're not gonna die. You just feel so bad. But they'll come back down and they'll feel better. And you know, it's a chemical reaction in the body. You can go up 4 days from now and it wouldn't bother you at all, just that particular time. If they sat down at Muir for like 3 days, their body would acclimate, they'd be fine. But they feel so bad, they just come down. And then there's another group that go up that don't make it to the top. They get to Camp Muir and say, this is hard. They'll come back down and they'll train some more before they go up. And quite often men and women come in feeling that they're very fit. I had a fellow come in here, he was a marathon runner and he was in great shape. He couldn't make it to Muir. The wrong muscles were developed. He couldn't handle the angle going on with it. So that surprises people too, that they're just not in good enough shape to go on. But they'll come back down. And some people are optimistic about going on, and maybe they're new at it, and they get to Muir and they realize what they're into. And I'm not ready for this. You know, they realize that this is much more challenging. But you sit down at Muir and you're talking to guys and gals that are coming down, and you look at them and they're exhausted, and they'll talk about what conditions are up above as the ranger up there solicits, information coming down. And some people will realize, I'm in over my head. I'm not ready for this. They'll come down.
I know that so most people climb the top from here, but you can climb up to the top from other points in the park.
Yeah, you can.
Do they have rest stops too, or just they'd be on your own?
You're on your own, yeah. Quite a few people will leave from sunrise. They'll have a base camp, Camp Sherman over there, which is a base camp, like Muir, much smaller. But majority of people leave from here, yeah, on this side. Any other questions you might have?
What kind of wildlife have you seen through this 14
Well, fellow rangers, we have 51 mammals that are in this park. The park is 97% wilderness, and we really protect the animals. They're living in their natural environment. But we have black bear, and our black bear, fortunately, here are very shy. They're not aggressive at all. And if you're on a trail and you run across a black bear, he'll move away from you. They're shy. Cougars we have, you don't see them. We have a trail around this mountain that's 93 miles, and sometimes those that are hiking that may run across a cougar. But we've never had an attack by a bear or cougar in this park. But sometimes those hikers, a couple of times they've come in and reported seeing a cougar. They let us know on their trip, and we immediately want to know, what is he doing? What was he doing? And none of them ever proved to be in an attack mode. They're just following, sniffing in the air and watching. And we figure they're yearlings. They've never seen a two-legged animal before, and animals are curious, so they just check them out for a little while. But it does change the life of the hikers for a while when they see this huge cat following them. But we've never had an attack. But we have marmots up here and pikas. A marmot is an animal about this big. They're coming out of hibernation. They hibernate for many months in the winter, short legs. And they're fun to spot because they're not afraid of people. You know, you can't touch them, you know, but they'll get close to you and kind of ignore you, but you can get close to them. And we also have a little animal up here that's really cute. It's called a pika. Pika's about the size of a guinea pig, little round ears. He's part of the rabbit family. And you'll see them, and they're not terribly frightened of people. If you stop and you spot one, you just be quiet and still, and he'll go about his business and so forth. Now, there's a place here that in the last few days, people have been spotting both marmots and pikas. There's a road at the end of the parking lot here, a one-way road that goes down through the Paradise Valley. If you walk down a short distance, there's kind of a pull out there off the road. And across the street is kind of a wall of rocks, and that's where they live in there. So if you're up to it, you may just stop, but be quiet and just wait, and you'll probably see one there. The marmots, though, are fun. That's the bigger animal. They do several things. They live on flowers and greenery and grass and so forth. They're not a predator. And they're waiting patiently now for all the flowers to come out so they can feed on them. But they're also the warning system for animals. If there's a predator in the area, like a coyote or something, and they're not sure about it, they'll stand up on a rock and whistle and lets all the little guys know there's danger in the area. And the marmots on hot days here, you'll see them flaked out over a rock, just sunbathing. You know, they look like they should have dark glasses on. And sometimes they stand up and they box with each other, you know, but they're not worried about humans being around. So they're a delight to see, always busy. We have, of course, mice. We have several breeds of birds. You may see a big blackbird, which is a raven, or a stellar jay, which is a bluebird, medium size, very noisy. The kind of a cone, black cone on top. Then we have gray jays up here, little gray birds. And we have nutcrackers up here, which is a gray bird, a little larger with a long beak. And you see them quite often. We also have at this time a lot of barn swallows that come up. And if you're curious about barn swallows, if you walk outside here and look up at the overhang, there's a swallow nest up there. And we watch them every year. The male and female both take care of the young once they've hatched from their eggs. And you see the male come in for a while and the female's gone, then they'll switch to watch the nest. And what's humorous is these babies start growing and that nest is not very big and you see them kind of hanging out. There's no room in that nest. And eventually they're curious. When they feel confident enough before they fly, the babies will come out and sit on the log up there and just watch people walking by. They're really cute. But if you want to see a swallow nest, barn swallow, there's one right up by the light in this overhang here. But we have raccoons, lower elevation. We have weasels here. We just introduced the fisher, which is like part of the weasel family. They're long, about this big, cute little face. Oh gosh, we have porcupines here, and a lot of black-tailed deer. You probably, if you've not seen one, you'll see one before you leave. You see them along the road. It's really necessary when you're driving down to take your time on the road. Don't speed up because animals are around. You'll see deer on the side grazing on the side of the road. They're used to cars pretty much, but you know, once in a while they'll decide to cross the road, and you have to be cautious. If you're ever driving in the mountains and a deer crosses the road in front of you, when he's crossed, don't figure that you can go, because quite often there's a couple of buddies of his that are still on the bank, and they'll notice he went across and they'll zip real fast. So you can have more deer than you expected. But if you see one cross the road, give it a little time to see if anybody else is coming. We have a lot of fox up here. We have Cascadia fox and the orange, yellow, red fox here. Unfortunately, a lot of them have become habituated. People have fed them, and they're beggars. And we ask people not to feed wild animals. Human food's not good for the wild animals. Everything they need is here. Unfortunate thing is, what humans feed these animals is not really good for humans either. It's junk food. You know, it's potato chips, taco chips, things like that. But these animals, if you feed any of them, you're really harming them. They've got another winter coming up, and they have to be in good shape. But the upside of the fox thing, if you see a fox, he's going to come over and look at you, hoping you're going to give him something. And you can get great pictures of them, but don't feed them. And they're very smart, these fox. We used to go downhill, and we'd see a group of people park their cars, and you'd see a fox there, and they're obviously looking at it, taking pictures of it, and feeding it. So we would pull over, get out of our van, go over to the visitors and say, take your pictures, but please don't feed the animals. You know, just give them a little caution there. It got so the fox knew our uniforms. And as soon as we get out of the car, boom, they're gone. Now you're the bad guy because the fox is gone. But now if we see that going on, we pull up and roll down the window and talk to people. We don't get out so they can see our uniforms. But you'll see animals around, birds. But if you're out on a hike, if you just sit down on a log or a rock or a bench and just be quiet for a while, they'll come around. You'll spot them once they realize there's no threat there from you. So you can see them.